I'm Tom Rioch, promoting successful business experts, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Joining us today from Gainesville, Florida, Betsy Pepine, founder, Pepine Realty, best-selling author of Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Boxes That Bind Us. So Betsy, what are your 3 top tips to start navigating out of a box?
Sure, Tom. First is we have to recognize when we are actually in a box that is no longer serving us. That sometimes is the hardest part, identifying which one of the boxes is confining us and becoming an obstacle for us leading a fulfilling and authentic life. But once we know what box that is, then we have to understand why are we staying in it if it's no longer serving us. And usually that comes down to 3 things. Either fear of change, fear of failure, or fear of loss. So identify for
Fear
yourself.
of, which was the third?
Fear of loss. Loss. And so identify for you which of those, or maybe a combination of those, is holding you back and address them head on. I love writing things down. So I will literally write down when I'm feeling resistance, I will write down, what is that resistance? Is it one of these 3 fears? So is it a fear of change? For that, I always like to combat it with a solution. What I like to do with change, because we're human. We are inherently resistant to change, even good change. So for me, I try to
ask somebody to change the recipe to a cake.
And I'm a baker. I don't do that.
People don't do that.
Yeah. And so, why is that? And so write that down. What are you fearing? And put yourself, I have a daily practice. I put myself in an uncomfortable situation at least once a day, because that helps me build that muscle up that I'm okay with being uncomfortable. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. It may just be taking a cold shower. If that's all I do that day, that makes me uncomfortable. But I make sure I do something every day so that I don't have that obstacle in my way. The second one is fear of failure. That's a huge one for us. We don't want to fail, but failure is in itself another box. It's a mental construct. It only exists in human natures, in the human mind. I've got 2 dogs sitting beside me. My dogs don't contemplate if they're going to fail today, going to get their bone or chasing a bird, and so can you redefine failure? And so for me, in my life, I truly believe failure does not exist. So for me, worst case scenario, if I take a path or try something different, the outcome is not what I expected. So I have to pivot. And I have learned something incredibly valuable that I will take with me for the rest of my life. That is worst case scenario. And studies have shown worst case scenario only happens 3% of the time. So I can live with that. And that to me is not failure. Having a lesson learned that will help me throughout the rest of my life, that's a bonus. That's a win. So for me, failure does not exist. And then the last one, that fear of loss. And the loss is usually one of 3 things: status, fear of status loss, fear of social connection, or fear of financial loss. Those are big. I take each one of those. Fear of status, that's an ego thing. For me, and my ego can get in the way, as I think it all can get in the way for all of us. So I just mentally, if I feel like this is something that my ego is telling me is going to be hurt or impacted, put my ego on the shelf. Literally visualize the ego goes on the shelf. Betsy, move forward. That really helps me get the ego out of the way. We are not our egos. Fear of loss of social connection. That is a very legitimate one, because when you move, it's like a chess game. When you move a chess piece, the whole game changes. You are going to change your social circle when you make moves. People aren't comfortable with other people making moves. It threatens them. So be prepared for that, but shore up the social connections, shore up new ones that are going to be important for you in this new venture, right?
What you're saying, it reminds me of something I've seen, a little thing for children, which is a box within a box.
Yes.
So if we take your 3 boxes, we could probably guess that we're in all 3 of those boxes sort of at the same time.
Exactly. Some people have compared it to the Russian doll sets.
Right.
That you
Yeah,
get,
exactly. Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah. And then the last one is fear of financial loss. And that's a very real one. I switched careers. I went from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. That was very scary. But nowadays, more than ever, with the gig economy, with the ability to work remotely, there's so many opportunities
Right.
to supplement your income as you're switching careers into a new path, a new box, that you can usually create a plan where the financial loss is not as dramatic as, say, it would have been 30 years ago when you tried to
Right.
make a career
Right.
move. So
I mean,
really
there
just
too. That years ago, the fear of failure was probably the largest because your parents didn't want you to fail. It was success. Everything was success driven.
Yes, so much so.
So
Yeah.
in all of that, and putting that together, there's just so many things to help people because boxes are different for different people too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what is a box that you may be trying to get out of, someone's trying to get into. They're not this definite good or bad. They serve us for a certain period of our time, but then we outgrow them. And sometimes if you're like me, you tend to overstay your welcome and you need a little bit of encouragement to get outside your box.
Well, we don't want to do that, but we do want our listeners to find you. So what is the best way that anybody who's in any type of a box today could reach out and find Betsy?
Right. So I have a website. It's just my name, betsypepine.com. I'm also on all the social channels at my name, Betsy Pepine. So yes, reach out to me. I have a free newsletter. I have a book that came out all about breaking boxes and dismantling those boxes that you can get on Amazon or any major bookstore online. And also through email, betsy@betsypepine.com.
Very good. Well, thanks for sharing with us today.
Thanks, Tom.
And again, remember, you can find more information. It's Betsy Pepine, Betsy. The last name is Pepine. You find her at her website, which is betsypepine.com. Find her on LinkedIn and other social media. And the book, Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Boxes That Bind Us, on Amazon. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at focusmi.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Cafe and Networking Podcast.